Hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channel. It's called McDuff Lives 2. And tonight we've got a great treat. We've got Amber Connor joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Amber.
Hello, John. How are you?
Good, good. It's great to have you back in about a month, and I think that's a good kind of a nice period of time to let run and then check back in with each other. I've actually got the pleasure of people in different states around the country now, and it's fun. So you're going to be my Georgia
Pen,
correspondent.
like a pen pal.
Yeah, we okay. So you'll accept the Georgia chair
Yeah.
for McDuff Lives, and we appreciate it. I just don't get enough of time to spend in Georgia, and I love it down there. Of course, my mother's from there, and my aunt, my uncle's wife, Connie, my aunt Connie, had a career at CDC.
Okay.
She she was a scientist at CDC, and she actually got an award for identifying, I think, 100 pathogenic things that hadn't been identified before. And that kind of thing is a point of pride in our family. And now we have a CDC that is kind of not been all that. I haven't been too proud of the CDC lately. Let's just put it that way. And the way that it's been used. Well, it's one of the biggest and most important employers in the Atlanta area. And you and I have never really talked about it. So I wonder if you could tell me from your perspective as a resident, what does the CDC mean to Atlanta? And what kind of reaction are the people of your community having when you think about the CDC and what it's been doing the past couple of years?
Okay, so I have a lot of friends that work for the CDC or with the CDC or used to and then opened up a private practice, as well as people that I know I'm close with that work at Emory or over near the Carter Center. That's east. You're talking East Atlanta area, and that's the more Democrat side of Atlanta. Um, it depends on who you're talking to as to what you're hearing about the CDC. If you are on, let's say, uh, the side of, you live middle class, you go to work nine to five. You're looking at it like the CDC. It's such a big deal. They should have the answers. I shouldn't have to come home, look anything up, find out what's going on, and I shouldn't have a CDC who's trying to heal us, who is political. So if I see that the CDC, if I'm middle class and I see the CDC seems very turned off by one type of administration and very happy with another, um, if if I see that dichotomy, I'm wondering why aren't we talking about the science? Then I become hypercritical of the CDC because I'm wondering what is going on. I thought that they were professionals. So you're thinking the CDC, intelligence agencies, military, that is your professional group. And then you see politics playing out in family and in colleges, in school, on the street, in your local government. But you're really not expecting to see that there. In fact, you're expecting for them to be way above that and to just be looking for the facts. So if you're dealing with just your regular Atlanta citizen, they've been a little frustrated for the last, probably 10 months. They've been verbal about it. Now, if you work for the CDC or you live near the CDC or you happen to have friends who, are involved with the CDC or family members, a lot of times you have people who are contracted to work there. And these are people who test foods or they test specific things that the CDC is looking into. And it's so compartmentalized that you could have maybe 10 or 15 friends that work there and none of them know each other. I mean, never have seen one another, heard one another speak. And so it's a very close-knit bubble. And that's really what you hear from people who either work at Emory because they're close to the CDC and they get the updates faster than most anybody. There's like a bubble where they're brought information way before others, and so they set the tone. And like monoclonal antibodies before had Fauci talking about it, and before you had DeSantis talking about monoclonal antibodies, the CDC in Atlanta and people that I know were already discussing it on podcasts. And then that's when it was introduced. So because they're ahead of it, like they started the healthcare, say, thank you to healthcare workers. Those signs went up everywhere in that community. And then about, 2 or 3 months later, you had people putting signs on their doors and thanking their local nurses. So because they're ahead of the group, they tend to get very frustrated if you question anything, because they look at it like, no, our job is to filter you the information that you need to know, and why would we lie to you? But when you're in a bubble, you kind of miss what you're not saying, right? So you don't see what your common man might need to hear from you. So if you're wanting to know about, should I take vitamin D, vitamin C, should I take elderberry, because you have other people out there and other doctors actually who aren't in the clique or in the bubble that's considered the CDC Emory group, then they're doctors, that they're looking at it like, we need to boost your immune system. And they're giving you a lot of information that one would assume, that doctors would give you. And then that causes a lot of the citizenry to start to listen to other doctors online, because they're getting like a canned speech and a very well-oiled paragraph, and it's played on, wash your hands and wear a mask and, slow the spread. And then they have these, sayings, because, if you repeat it and you have people, it makes it easier for people to attain. But in that, they're not really discussing the fears that people have. And they were out of touch, that people were furious that when they tested positive, they were sent home. To them, that made zero sense. And they were in such a bubble, they didn't understand why there was blowback. So you had a lot of just frustrated people who work for the CDC or affiliated with them, that everyone became a Trump supporter to them. Everyone became someone that they absolutely did not like or understand. And so to them, they were just troublemakers, when in all actuality, they were people that were afraid. They were wanting to know what's going on because their aunt was just sent home and she's getting worse. And to them, a doctor doesn't say, you're sick, I don't have anything for you, go home. That was very odd. But when you're in a bubble, that makes sense, because you're just trying to keep the closed. From getting overrun, and that is where you've got the talk on the street, is what you would call it. You've got the group, the in crowd, the ones who get the information first. Like, they knew that they were about to start giving vaccines to children. And they're in a bubble right now when it comes to not understanding that there are millions of people that are concerned, because you've got, everyone jokes about 6 degrees of separation with Kevin Bacon. Well, you've got people now that have 2 degrees, 1 degree separation with people who've been hurt by being sent home, and then it was too late. And they really struggled, and they've got a lot of lung damage. And then you've got people who were not given any information, who could have been given, medications for pneumonia, for flu, that, were just told to sit back and do nothing. And at the same time, were kind of mocked when they didn't trust, hey, here's a vaccine for you. Here you can have this, after they had seen so much devastation with people suffering at home. And so you have people that are out of touch with one another. And it's a huge bubble that when you know people, you can call them, you can ask them questions. But if you don't know anyone, you feel very left out. And, when you're in a clique, you tend to be a little snottish and a little elitist, and you don't really you don't know, because you're just happy to be in that group, right? And then you're just divvying the information that people should know, and then that's that. And so because it's laid out like that and it's compartmentalized, that's where the conspiracy theories go berserk. Now, there are people that I believe that have been very disingenuous and know a lot more about what's going on. Know a lot more about bioweapons. They know a lot more about where it started. Then you just have people who work there and who love nursing and who have always gotten a vaccine, and to them, who are these goobers that are freaking out? And so you just have this group of popular kids that are thinking anyone else who just doesn't get it is a problem. And that's what we're facing in Atlanta. It's a tale of two cities. And it's very difficult to navigate because I've got friends on both sides, and I'm someone that'll ask a million questions and they can't always get back to me. And then if I get an answer from a doctor that's not part of that bubble, and then I check it out and it looks like multiple doctors are saying it, I'm not a conspiracy theorist for actually looking for information when they're not ready to release information about doctors or about people that, or about their next move or what they're working on, because they're leading the pack. And when you're setting the tone, people have to go at your pace. And so when people are curious, sometimes they can get off the script that you want them to be provided. They get off of the track that you want for them to follow. And with that, then you have like this fight for dominance, and then the small people are left behind, and then they gather together and they question all authority. And sometimes it looks like it's purposeful to me, because for a lot of people that are supposedly supposed to understand the human race and how we think, you would think that they would grasp that this was inevitably going to happen. So it's a little frustrating to watch it play out. And I'm one of those that'll hold someone's feet to the fire if they're not making any sense, or if they're not really communicating except for sound bites. That's a problem, especially when you're not dealing with people who are just waiting to be told what to do. When fear like this takes place, along with everything else that's happening in our political climate, and when you've got intelligence agencies, military, and they seem to be split, they seem to be highly political, which is absolutely unacceptable on so many levels, then this is what it looks like. And it's very ugly. And I have a lot of questions for those in charge. Do I need to keep talking? I don't see John.
I'm coming back.
Did you leave? Are you there, John? Okay.
Yeah, I had just put you up there. We were trying to adjust your light before the show started, and I've been trying to bring it back up again. I think we turned off too much light. We need a little bit more in your room, because it's a little bit hard to see you sometimes.
Okay.
Maybe if you could turn on a little bit more light, is that possible?
Okay, I'll try.
Give
me a second. Put yourself on the screen so I can try to adjust some light.
You got it. Okay, we spent a couple minutes before the show's trying to get it right, and I think we might have turned off too many lights. So I'm gonna get Amber to turn on another light, and then maybe we'll have less of a pixelated view. Because it's nice to see people as well as hear them talk, right? I think this will be better.
Got it. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
My mic. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got more light, and we're actually, I think if you hold still, we get a little bit better than. Yeah, very good. Okay. I'm sorry for being a little bit picky, but I want you to. I've got this beautiful guest. I want you to look great on the camera. All right. CDC is also kind of split. You say there's people that get angry at the government, at the management depending upon what the policy is. And the policy changed terrifically when President Biden took office. Um, what did you notice in terms of changes when Biden came in?
I noticed that the CDC employees and workers and those affiliated in that area were much happier, but they also vote Democrat. So their energy, they had more of a glow. And it really seemed like, from the perspective that I heard from them, was they were frustrated because Trump was too involved. He wanted to come to see what was going on. He had too many questions. He wouldn't follow exactly what they wanted. He would go off script, and they were frustrated. Whereas with Biden, he was more like, tell me what to do. And that makes them very happy. And it seems to make actually all of the intelligence agencies, the military, the CDC, the doctors who are in the upper echelon, it seems to make them happy when our president is very submissive to them. And when we have a president that wants to be what I guess we would consider a president, because that, when you talk about the book Presidential Puppetry, I was born in the 70s, and I always assumed that people were always vitriolic with the president because they had so much power. They yielded all this power. And, maybe we just don't hold the president accountable. Maybe we just hold all those people who are actually telling the president what to do. I mean, they can't have it both ways, right? You can't want to control every part of it, but then wash your hands and say it's him. I'm starting to look at the presidents like I'm sympathetic with what they have to deal with, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, and those that are surrounding them as the perpetrators of the chaos. It's very frustrating, and we shouldn't have systems that are supposed to keep us safe, feeling secure, and actually who we pay taxes to, confusing the issues, confusing the citizenry, and really then making fun of us if we don't do what they assume is best for us, right? If we like a president that they don't like, then we're rubes and stupid. If we don't like a president that they like, then we're rubes and stupid. So it's kind of, it's this dog and pony show, but I think they should be really happy, because for people who are called rubes and stupid, we sure are giving them all a run for their money. And it's very hard to keep up with people who are really wanting to know what's going on in the world. I mean, you probably shouldn't call people stupid and ignorant if they're going to try to find out what's really going on. You should bask in the glory of their ignorance and then let them think that their president is in charge of something. And I think, I'm just tired of the disingenuousness and the wanting to have your cake and eat it too. If you want to be in charge, you tell people, yeah, the president is the face, like a mayor. He's the cheerleader of our country, and the mayor's the cheerleader of our city, and we run things. Okay, great. Now we'll come to you with our problems, right? We'll come to you. Like, that's just the cheerleader. We're going to ask you these pointed questions. We're going to make Congress hold you more responsible. We're going to push for term limits so you're not persuading Congress not to ask you the pertinent questions that we put them there to do. So, I think it's quite crude for them to blame Americans for what we're in, and yet the only thing that we get to do as Americans is vote for a president that doesn't get to run things. So, how is any of this our fault? It's not. I mean, maybe we pick the type of music we want, but not really. So we really don't have many choices, and all we have now is to ask questions and to make people uncomfortable that are lying. If they're telling the truth, there should be no uncomfortability. It should just be an open conversation, very easy to have, because they're intellectuals and they want us to be intellectuals, and they want us to evolve and do the best for our country and support other citizens and really just give a damn about people. And if that's what we're doing, there shouldn't be conflict. When there's conflict, it's because we're asking questions we're not supposed to. And why is that? Why are we not supposed to? We're working, we're paying taxes, we're raising children, we're being patriotic. We need to know what's going on. And we don't need to be told to be quiet, wait until we decide, because that's kind of sketchy. And That's what you read in every history book in the Bible. And that's why we go into conflicts with other countries, because they have a government that's doing all these horrible things to their citizenry. So there's a lot of double speak. And I think that, instead of us getting mad at our neighbor for how they voted, or mad at our friend or fellow church member or whatever, we need to actually look at who's dividing us and what are they hiding from us. And if they don't like what I'm saying, they probably shouldn't act this way, because I'm a mother and I do this for my own children. And, if I hold my children that came from me, this, responsible for their actions, why in the world would I not hold my government the same, hold them to the same standard?
I'll answer your question for you. Eustace Mullins answered it in this book that I'm reading now, reading along with Dave Underdown, by the way, and I really feel that it's great to join our minds together on these things. The World Order, Our Secret Rulers, 1985 book. He answers your question: why is this happening? The Brotherhood of Death, which he calls the deep state, or I think it's specifically the Skull and Bones people, went public with their claims for a new world order, which essentially was the brave new world described by Aldous Huxley in his groundbreaking novel. Beyond all demands for this new world order were the same imperatives as listed by Professor Hoffman in Primacy or World Order. Quote, "What will have to take place is a gradual adaptation of the social, economic, and political system of the United States to the imperatives of world order." So what they're doing is they're taking our social, political, economic, legal system and modifying it so that your citizen, your instincts as a citizen are no longer necessary, because the government's going to take care of all that for you under the New World Order. So you don't have to worry about all of these difficult questions. That's why the people that you spoke of earlier know that it's their duty to filter the information that they give to you and only give you what you need to know, and not confuse you with things that you don't need to know, because that will just cause disinformation, and we don't want that. So, you see what I'm saying is
Yeah.
this is not unplanned. This is not a secret. This is stuff that's going on, and people that study it have written books about it for 50 years now.
Well,
So,
John,
yeah, go ahead. But what I
well,
think we got to recognize is that there is a malevolent movement within our government to take away all of those duties, and of course, with them, all of our rights.
John, I can see that would be a totally human and arrogant and a very self-righteous and self-centered move that a few people would want to make, because they're enlightened and they're just smarter than the rest of us. But quite frankly, they suck at what they're doing. I mean, people are traumatized. They literally, this is not utopia, and you'd have to be almost a dead ape not to ask any questions. Like, at this point, you would have to not have a heartbeat to wonder what in the world is going on. So, it's really cute that, we should stay with the narrative and follow suit. This is hell. Like, this is not something that you raise kids in. You don't have kids in this kind of chaos and lunacy and not ask questions. So, to me, that's kind of ridiculous and a little bit, ignorant for them to behave like they are. It's not like they handed us utopia, and there's gardens everywhere. You just go outside and pick fruit, and like everybody's getting along, and taxes are like, you didn't have to worry about transitioning cars because it was gradual, and they were smart, and they didn't do double deals, and there wasn't a lot of money being passed from group to group, were special favors. It's very obvious, strange group of people that benefit to the point where it's obnoxious, and then tell us that they care about us. It's very strange. And, one would think if you're going to act like this, of course everyone's going to have a question. I mean, if you don't understand that as a person, you don't need to be in leadership at all. Like, you haven't earned any of the things that you're demanding people be quiet and give you. Because for one thing, most of the people who want to be in charge tell us an egg is unhealthy and then an egg is healthy again. I mean, let's get real. We're all human. And these people are failing. They are failing while they're mocking us who have no power. And then they're challenging us, trying to get us to fight one another so that then they can blame us because, we're unintelligent animals that need them to teach us how to have hygiene, good hygiene. And yet there are areas and pockets that people have cycled through poverty over and over and over, but you've had plenty of time to educate people in a way. If you're so learned and smart, if you can push propaganda, why couldn't you push hygiene in the same manner that you do propaganda? Like, so they can pick and choose all they want to, but I need to see the receipts, and I don't see the receipts. People can talk all they want to and say, well, we're doing it for this, but I don't see any receipts. I don't see any results. I see the opposite of what they're saying they're doing for us. It is an absolute crap show. And they have a citizenry that is traumatized. And what is going to happen for ages after this is so egregious and disgusting. They don't have our best interest at heart. I mean, actually, if they were intelligent, like we're supposed to believe they are, they would know what they're doing is so detrimental because it actually affects them more than it does us, since they're the beneficiaries of everything. So it would behoove them not to have a traumatized citizenry. So it shows how absolutely ignorant they're being. So I don't have any qualms about questioning them, because if this was a cake and they made it from a recipe, I would spit it out. It's not edible. It's not palatable. So if they're going to demand to be in charge, they better do better, because they are not doing a good job at all.
You speak of recipes, and I think it's a good metaphor, because my next question is, does the issue of synthetic biology hit the radar screen in your among people that you talk with? And by that I mean, and Andy DiBala is doing some superb work on this, that they have actually created from a little bitty, a nanoparticle, a very, very tiny piece of, and I don't know if it's whether silicon or graphite, but one or the other, which forms a synthetic nucleus, which they use then to build the proteins around. And that, if that's what's going on, and nod, wink, wink, think that's what's going to the evidence is going to show that is what's going on, that they're putting into us something that was never, ever part of nature, something that they have concocted as a shortcut and a easy, cheap manufacturing scheme, and a way to avoid years and years of time-consuming testing, which keeps them from getting their paychecks, for a long time, and that's painful for them. So they've decided to cut corners and just use synthetic stuff to build their medicine around. Now, that's as close as I can dance around the words without us getting struck right off of the internet tonight, because they are striking you right and left. But you know what I'm talking about, and it's, in terms of a metaphor, you're exactly right. I would never eat that cake, and nobody should. It's got stuff in it from the bottom of people's shoes and asphalt off the road. I mean, you don't know what is in that cake, so don't eat that cake.
Yeah.
But so what about the idea of synthetic biology? Is that coming into the radar screen of folks that you know? Because I think that's an issue we need to talk about.
So actually, I think most of the people who work for the CDC, they have zero idea that the push is for transhumanism. They have zero idea. of the things and the ways that they're introducing things in our body. They're basically talking about virology. They're basically being told this is what we found. And so when you work in these industries, you have people who are of a higher status than you come in and say, these are the tests. They give you all these pie charts, graphs, and they sit down with the next level of people. And then that level of people goes to tell the next level of people. And then you just trust it. Why would they lie to you? They're trying to save lives. That's the whole reason why they're in it. So if I were to even go to somebody and say, they're pushing for transhumanism, they would think that I was growing, fir trees out of my ears. Like, what in the world is wrong with you? Where did you get that? And no matter if it came from CNN, they would say, well, that's just, they're being, funny or whatever. Because to them, like, there's no way that they would partake in something like that. Because these are people, a lot of the people in East Atlanta, women, these are women that they're not into a lot of jewelry. They like to use electric cars. They don't like to wear a lot of makeup. It's not about trying to stay youthful. They let their hair turn gray when it's supposed to. Their parents were hippies a while back. These are not people looking to be a machine, right? And these are people that would be offended by things that Elon Musk says, which I guess is why he's always battling with them. However, in this split group we have going on, they are allowing the money that pushes those top doctors to do these things. They are like the soldiers that go run and tattle someone on Facebook did this, or someone's doing this, and why are they doing this? And they're the Gestapo for those that are looking into how to keep us alive, not naturally, and not in the way that they would assume that a healer would do. So I think most of them are very unaware, and they would think it was nuts, absolutely nuts to actually hear about that. And as far as like introducing things into our body that they shouldn't, I mean, the people who put this concoction together, and they think it's cute to not even put what's on the label, and you can't even really find out what's in it. I mean, they're disgusting. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't mock people who believed in God, if they weren't the kind of people who were very rebellious towards God and said, something like God is dead, or this is, mock the whole idea and science is God. But if I had to choose between God and how they treat me, I would choose God every time. They are far worse than any creator they've ever described or would ever have any vitriol towards, and so I know what team I'm on when it comes to that, because I just really, I can't deal with the dishonesty. I can't deal with the mockery and the using a group of people who actually have good hearts. I mean, these are people I know. They have no idea what's going on when other doctors are coming out saying what they're seeing is very frightening. And I mean, you actually have doctors who aren't just telling people you have to get rid of parasites in your body right now because that makes your immune system better. Like, you don't have where they're breaking down how do you build your immune system? What do you need to do? They're treating us like we're 5-year-olds. Wash your hands, put on your mask, good kids. We're smarter than that. Thank you so much. That's why we're searching everywhere else. We need something more than that. And, they need to get out of politics because they're destroying lives. So while they're saying they're saving lives, people are dying because of these tactics, and because of the bullying, and because they're afraid to go to the doctor. Because if you go to the doctor, you get a test for COVID, then you get put on the floor. But what if you're just there because you have an issue with you've got gout, or you've got some kind of issue you've got to see about? People aren't even going for the mildest things. They're not helping with anything. And excuse me, but the pharmaceutical companies, they're there for, it's like with policing. You're either proactive or you're reactive. A pharmaceutical is a reactive. That our doctors should be proactive, not wait and say, here's a pill to deal with what this and this has led up to. No, here's what you need to do for your body so you don't need this pill. but it's backwards. And that's how you know that there are people who are more worried about money and benefiting than healing. And that's gross. And if I were someone in the CDC or at a hospital, I would be kicking these companies out faster than anything. And I would have them have to show uh, actually valor and where they actually showed that they cared and they put their ingredients on things. They spoke about what's in it, how they got their botanicals, what they do, and how they do it. They wouldn't be worried about patents. They would worry about healing. And I just don't see that. And to me, that's absolutely evil. And if they don't want to be referred to like that, like you don't have a good cholesterol medicine that does well, right? And then you make a cholesterol medicine that eats rapidly all the, and they forget to mention your brain is actually made of cholesterol. So, and then people start to get Alzheimer's and they start to get a lot of brain issues because the drug is actually eating all of the cholesterol. You're supposed to have some cholesterol in your body. And the fact that they still sold that cholesterol medication and not a lot of people know about it because doctors that get paid a lot put people on that medication. It's, the other cholesterol medicine worked just fine. It takes longer and you have to eat oatmeal and change your diet, but you should do that anyway. So it's really gross what we're dealing with. And I'm not going to hold anybody to a certain stature until they deserve it. And I don't see that they deserve it. In fact, right now, they all deserve criticism until they can play nice, get out of politics, and actually heal people, period.
Well, I agree with you, of course. And my idea is I've been trying to figure out with a big picture, how do they do it? How do they do this in their minds, right? I mean, maybe you don't believe in God, but you're still a human, so you got some essential idea of ethics in you. I mean, I've had a number of friends that belong to something called the Washington Ethical Society. And they're not particularly religious. They're not. A lot of them would say they're atheists, but at the same time, they do a lot of great cultural stuff, and they believe in what we would basically say goodness, the greater goodness, and that to me is essential to be a human. You have to understand that there's good stuff that, that makes it worthwhile to live. Living is not necessarily easy, but it's worth it because we do good and we feel good and we have the sensation that we've improved things in our short time on this planet. Um, and that idea of goodness is buried under another concept that they have, which is that they feel that it is their duty, and I mean they, meaning people that actually think of it ethically from the other side, that it's their duty to advance the progress of mankind, of humanity, not their individual, not that I personally need to be a better human and spend my time on earth to make myself a better person so that, when I see God, I can be happy with him and love him and serve him and all of the stuff that they tell you as kids. Um, no, that they think that the best thing they can do is to speed up the evolution of the perfect human. And if that means that some of the not so perfect humans have to die along the way, well, that's just the way the game is set up. I mean, come on. Look, people die all the time. There's diseases out there. Before that, there was lions and tigers and bears in the forest, and people
Yeah.
were going to get killed. No matter when you live, no matter what your station in life is, you're going to die. You're going to get killed. Well, what if they could figure out a way to avoid all that? And all it would take would be for them to get into the human genome, with some little bitty tiny little tweezers and pull this out and stick that in and move that over there, and suddenly nobody would ever get sick again. We would all be happy, and we would all live in this sustainable, and they love that word, sustainable planet. But when they say sustainable, that's ridiculous because the earth is already made for us and it's already sustainable. I mean, there's the trouble that they don't see is that the scarcity is all fake. It's all false. There's plenty of everything, and all we need to do is share. and follow, the golden rule, and it would be paradise. But no, they think they've got this mental idea that they can speed up evolution, that they can get us into some higher uh, form of humanity, the Superman. And I'm afraid that all of that sounds like Nietzsche and the 2001 Space Odyssey and all that stuff is like just this trite fantasies from science fiction. No, they wrote that stuff. That's pre-programming. That's like you read this book, and then when it happens, you'll say, "Oh, okay, well that's what's happening is what I read in that book or saw in that movie." Or sure, of course, the Five Eyes are going to take over the world. The Nine Eyes took over the world in Spectre, James Bond, 2016. So we know that the intelligence agencies of the world are going to take over everything, and we're all going to be submissive to the totalitarian lords. You got me started there, Amber. Thanks for that. But that's what I see. Is it's not that they're failing; it's that they're succeeding at doing something very, very evil.
Uh, I would say it looks like they're succeeding. They themselves are just as lowly as the lowest of those that they would want to, I guess, either eradicate or judge. No one is best than your lowest common denominator. And if you're not busy building people up, then you're not perfecting people, right? If you're busy tearing people apart to piece them back together like a Frankenstein, in order for you to show your prowess and your fortitude and your actual, intellectual, superiority, then if you have to tear something up or tear it down to investigate it, you're just as lowly as everyone else. You wouldn't have to tear it up. You would be so superior that all you would have to do is build it up. And so the fact that they've chosen to tear it apart rather than build it and enhance it to make it better, not by entering things into the body, but actually teaching why some behaviors will not get us what we want. For instance, I have a lot of friends that are nurses and doctors, and one of their biggest complaints is people who tend to get free healthcare. They come in demanding, talking down. Mostly they're in fear, and that's how regular people act. But some people were taught how they were growing up and how they grew up in trauma. You just scream and you have at it and you yell at whoever and you say, "Give me this now." And the nurses need to do this for me. And, if you're someone waiting on people who are expectant, crass, rude, and they're not having to pay a dime as a human, because remember, they're just as lowly as the lowest of us. They're not going to be like Jesus. They're not going to be like somebody who is of a higher mind, who would understand, well, this person is traumatized. I know exactly how to calm them down without giving them medicine or anything, but to speak to them and to calm their fears. And where after I speak, they understand that they don't have to be afraid, but demanding is going to upset the people around this room, and it's going to cause the energy to be negative, and it's going to be difficult to get your body to calm down, and you're not going to get well if this is your reaction. And so you have a lot of people who have not even perfected calming down someone who's in a crisis, wanting to change the makeup of a human being. You've got people who have large swaths of poor areas and people drugged out and dying from overdoses. They haven't even figured out how to lift people out of that by just words. Like if you're intelligent and you understand humans to the point where you're going to enhance them more from the inside, if you can't just simply do your best to get them to where they should already be, you're not the person for the job. You don't need to be doing anything to play God whatsoever, because you can't even form a sentence that lifts their spirit. And that's a problem. Like at this point, you're going to be referred to as a demon. because you're not building the human spirit. You're destroying it as you're saying you can perfect it. So you're going to perfect a destroyed spirit? That's still a destroyed spirit. Like, you're getting nothing from it. So the intellectual class, or the ones who would say, oh, we're on the right track, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They don't know how to talk to the common man. They don't even know how to deal with the common man's reactions. A normal human reaction without being irritated, put off, and just, get out of my way. You don't understand. Well, they probably don't understand because you hid it from them, because you don't talk to them like they're a person, because you don't lift them up, because then that's more competition. And then you can't stay in a position of leadership. Like, we've gotten to the point where it's cute to knock people off the ladder instead of leading from behind. A true leader always leads from behind and encourages everyone to lead. And afterwards, no one knows that they're the leader. And that's when you know that you can actually help people. And until then, I mean, it is sad, and we do have to push back against this arrogance. And it is evil. It is absolutely evil that people who are tearing people apart, dividing countries, dividing towns, counties, cities, want to then tell us that they know what's best for us. Why did you divide us? That is not what's best for us. Why have you allowed these type of bioweapons? That's not what's best for us. Why are you creating, and enhancing viruses just in case this guy comes over here and hurts us? They have a lot of answers, not many questions. And that's not a good teacher, because they should be asking us as many questions as we ask them. In order to understand us, they can't predictive program us by manipulating our emotions. They have to know why we say what we say, what our story is, why we're on the path that we're on, how we got there. What year were we born? When we were in our mother's stomach, what music did she listen to? What were those lyrics? What have we taken in? How are the generations thinking differently? These are all things that are very important. And that's how, to me, it doesn't seem like they're trying to heal us or make us better. It seems like they're just trying to get a lot of science under their belt and understand humans. And they really don't care who they hurt in the process, as long as they're the ones who make it to the moon first. They're the ones who make it to Mars first. They're the ones who do it first and fast. And if people die, they have a way to maneuver and obfuscate from what the casualties were in order to be first in line. And if anybody who partakes in that and says they believe in God are absolute, they're not good stewards of God. And in fact, they don't believe in God. And I'm never going to believe that someone who partakes in that kind of chaos and chaos making and division would ever be a child of God. That there's ways that you would work for God or work for the betterment of humanity. And chaos is not one of them. That's bringing order to chaos. And in fact, and this will tell a lot, if they're actually, people who really care about the human race, they're going to want people to push back. They're going to want people to look for the truth. And they're going to want people to demand better leadership, kinder, more humble leadership. And then someone who takes us all seriously and teaches those who, quite frankly, there are people who are way out of control. Like, they are way emotional. They're violent. They had a horrible past, and we shouldn't make excuses for that. But when you have a large part of citizenry that acts out and you haven't learned how to heal the basics of those things, then, you don't deserve the position that you're in. And I hope that many, many people start to question. It's your right to question. And if they don't have the answers, they shouldn't be in leadership, period.
Amber, I always feel better after we talk. I honestly, you're a reservoir of clean thinking, of clear thinking, of a kind of thought that comes out of a good education and orientation into the world the way it's supposed to be. And so many people, as you said, have had very difficult lives, and they're afraid. and they're emotionally upset, and they don't know how to ask for help. And when they get help, they don't know how to react to it, or whether, these people are have not been treated right in their lives. Of course, you could say that about most of us in some way or another, but
Mhm.
it adds up cumulatively. But the people that have had the blessings of great educations, the tremendous educations that these people are making these decisions have had, seem to have lost their touch with the rest of us, and have this mindset of, just like the Fabians of old 19th century England, in which they still think that way. That the best thing to do is to reduce the population to something that we can manage, and then make everything free, and all the people will be happy, and we'll be happy because we'll be in control. But they won't know that because we'll be secretly behind the scenes running everything. I think that's what they like to do, is kind of play God, as you said it yourself. But you brought me back to my my original family values. You talking to you down in Atlanta reminds me of my mother, and my mother was a basic, what religion do you belong to? Oh, I don't belong to a organized religion. I'm a Baptist.
I was baptized a Baptist.
And well, there you go. And my grandmother. So my grandmother played piano at Second Baptist Church in Atlanta. She didn't read music. She was played by ear. I never heard her play, but I also started playing piano by ear when I was young, and I just love thinking about the goodness, the feeling of goodness that was there when we visited grandmother in Atlanta. And you have that, you project it. And so I'm really grateful to you, Amber, for sharing some time with us tonight. Want to thank Chase for keeping the dog from barking. And,
Yes. Yeah.
and, and
And John, just one last thing. Remember, you just said in order for them to control the population, they would need to be able to manage it. Well, no one needs to control something if they have to diminish it before they're able to control it. Like, in order for them to earn that position, right? And people might be willing to give someone that position. You can't want to take away from it so that it's possible for you to be able to control it. That means you're not up for the task or the job. So, I really think that we should hold them to their words, and it's they want to lead. I don't see leadership quality in them. They just don't have what it takes. And we need people who have what it takes, who are going to be gentle, kind, and lift us up. And that doesn't mean utopia and, some hedonistic, crazy world where everybody just dances around in a circle and does drugs. No, that actually means that we are kind. Hesed is a Hebrew word for loving kindness. In order for us to play God, wouldn't we want to mimic a little bit? And he has loving kindness. So if within ourself and our leadership, they don't the fact they don't expect the blowback and the people saying we don't like this and we're not okay with this and we're afraid of this, shows they don't have loving kindness, right? And that's what's missing. And so they haven't earned the leadership that they've taken so violently. And I think that they have a lot of explaining to do, and I think that we should all hold them accountable, and we should have lots of questions ready. And until I see that they can actually answer those questions and be astute and kind, and take us out of a situation in which they put us in, I'm not going to have any faith in them, nor will I be a follower.
well, once again, it's been great, Amber. I'm going to ask you to come back again in a month or so. We'll be talking, if you do that, sometime before Christmas, and maybe things will get some good cheer lined up for that show.
Yeah.
I'm looking for good news, and honestly, I do think that they're falling. Babylon is falling, Babylon is falling to rise no more. Let's
As
just
it should.
with the old hymn, from the 1600s. They said Babylon has fallen, and doggone it, Babylon's trying to come back. But once again, we're going to do the job with your help. And Amber, you're a great leader in this. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you so much, John, and bye, Ospreys.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.